Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Your Spiritual Journey. This is the space and the place where we get down and real. Just want to let you know that if you're a fan of the program, we'd like you to like us or subscribe or support us on Patreon. However you might like to support us. We want to be around for a long time. So today's special guest is someone I have to say I don't know real well. I ran into her at a psychic fair, and when I saw that she was a shaman, I thought, wow, I've got to have a shaman on my show. So Angela and I did have a discussion over the phone for a while just to get familiar with each other. And I'm going to let you do that, just to give you a little bit of background. Angela is known as the Rose Heart Shaman. And she's a spiritual adept who works with clients to remove suffering and negativity to restore uplifting balance and inner beauty. We could all use a little bit of that.
Yes, we can.
Male or female. So I'm not going to say much more about her, other than she had an epic spiritual breakthrough at some point in her life. But we're going to take her back to childhood first.
Oh, boy.
And have her tell her story from childhood to the present. Then I'll ask some questions. So, Angela, the mic is all yours.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bob. It is my pleasure to be here. And I just am thrilled with what you're doing. I'm excited and honored to actually share my story with you. It was delightful to meet you in the way that we met. And as a native Pittsburgher, for those watching, I just want everyone to know I work with crystals. And I'm wearing my Pittsburgh crystal today. This is Bumblebee Jasper, and I call it my Pittsburgh crystal because there's always that Steeler fan. She never goes out anywhere.
Okay.
She's always here.
So it's that black and gold.
You got it.
Doing it. Okay.
So, yes, I am born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I grew up in Carnegie, and I am an only child. And my mother, we were raised, I'm full-blooded Italian on both sides, up and down the line. I was raised Catholic, baptized Catholic, did the whole Catholic thing for a number of years. Still very Christian. JC and I are very tight. And I have a very special relationship with Mary, Mother of Jesus, which I will speak about in a bit. But my mother also was an astrologer for a time. And growing up around psychics and people with these abilities is nothing new to me. So she always had card readers, or as I was old enough, I would go with her to card reading experiences. But when I was a kid, my friends would love coming over to my house because my mother would tell them all about their sign and the difference between, the rising sign and your birth sign and all of the ascendants. And I'm still confused by it. But because of her love of astrology, it made a lot of sense to me as a child of how it was more of a science than the silliness that you see every day in the paper or on the internet. There's more to it than that, and it's fascinating. And so fast forward, I got married, I have a child, I raised my son Catholic, and I cantored in the church for over 20 years. So I'm very familiar with the liturgy. And one of the things that always inspired me was music. So I always felt more connected to the frequencies and resonance of the songs, the Psalms in particular, more so than the Gospels, because sometimes I felt like the Gospels weren't read or applied in modern language.
Yeah.
And the priests would oftentimes, sometimes they would relate. I think the good priests know how to connect the dots and make it relevant today. And did that for a long time. And then it was probably around 2012. I remember it was the year that Mitt Romney was running against Barack Obama for president. And I was in church. I wasn't cantering that day. I was in church. And I came out to my car. And it was the weekend before the election. And all of this propaganda was on everybody's car. And I'll never forget. On the form said, "It is your Catholic obligation to vote for these people." And they explained why. And it really angered me. You know, when you leave church or some type of experience, you want to feel uplifted. So you go about your week with some type of inspiration to feel grounded and connected. And it left me feeling the opposite. And I felt as if they didn't really want to know who I was or what I needed. You know, I was a mom, a working mother. You know, we all had financial challenges. You have struggles of life. And so I didn't feel it was anyone's, you know, that Catholic guilt. It's, you know, they try to impress upon us what they believe is what we should do. So I felt turned off. And this was after all of the scandals with the priest, which I had hung in there through all of that. But I stopped going to church regularly after that. And it took a while for me to figure out what I needed. Yeah. But I've always had intuitive abilities, and I just kind of always stayed connected in my own way to Christ and to what really mattered.
Yeah. Okay. So you didn't buy into that stuff. You don't come to church every Sunday, then you're going to hell unless you come do penance or atonement.
You know, I'm so glad you brought that up. So that was one of the things I always felt uncomfortable about, is going to confession. And I never really felt, it made me feel shameful to have to confess to someone, even though it was a priest, you know, my sins. And I think people hold back because they don't feel comfortable doing that in that environment. So I always believed that if I really wanted forgiveness from my heart, I would just ask God to forgive me.
Yeah.
And that's how I live my life today. And that for me is true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So religion's totally out right now. Any organized religion is out the window?
So I wouldn't say it's out the window. I respect all the religious traditions. I'm very grateful for the lessons I learned, for understanding the positive things that compassion brings, the positive messages of Christ. I think sometimes we get bogged down in the rules that are man-made. And so I have great respect for various traditions of cultures around the world. Shamanism comes from many of those traditions, and I'm reconnecting to some of them as we speak. So I'm not anti-religion, but I am more pro-spiritual. Yeah. And I believe that every one of us is an individual spirit having a human experience, and we've got to connect in a way that makes sense intuitively. And every single one of us has that inner knowing somewhere within us. And we learn from each other that way because we all come into the world from a different perspective. Yeah. And that's what's so fascinating and beautiful, is learning from each other and growing from that experience. And that is not what the Catholic Church taught me. The Catholic Church wanted me to be in a mold and stay in a bubble. Yeah. And I didn't feel like I was experiencing the full richness of life in that way. And so today, I do not go to church on a regular basis, unless I'm invited to a wedding or a funeral, in which case I will go and, of course, respect the traditions as I participate.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So something happened when you were in your 50s, right?
That's right.
What was that?
Well, I had, as you said earlier, an epic spiritual breakthrough. I noticed things were building in my 50s. I was becoming more creatively mused, like things were just coming through me out of nowhere. I didn't understand why or what it was. I would just go with it. But it was actually during COVID, you know, when we were all in lockdown and shut down. I did a lot of inner soul searching, but in a fun way. I'd write a lot. I was creating a lot. I was creating videos and different photo stories and things to do to pass the time. Did a lot of puzzles. And during those puzzle-making experiences, had a lot of time to think. And it was out of that experience that I started to have all of these synchronicities occur and coincidences. And I realized that coincidences aren't really just that. There's a reason why things happen when you think of them. So, for example, I was working on a project, and I was in the back of my house on my deck at the time, and I needed a graphic designer. And I have a neighbor that I only met one time who is a graphic designer. And I decided to take a walk, and I said, boy, I hope I run into her. And wouldn't you know it, there she was. Yeah. And I talked to her real quick, and she said, yes, I'll do it. I'll help you. So things like that were happening more regularly that you can't explain. People would just drop in to my life when I needed them. And so it was sometime in November of I think it was 2021. It was November of 2021. So it was just 2 years ago that I felt like I had a bit of a meltdown. I don't know if I would call it a nervous breakdown, but I could tell something needed to come out of me that I couldn't hold anymore. And I knew it was spiritual. So I was on Facebook, of course. We're all on some type of social media. And there's a friend of mine I graduated with. Her name is Holly Million, and she's known as the shaman artist. And she lives in Oakland, California today. Of course, she grew up in Pittsburgh. And I reached out to her and I said, I don't know what's happening, but I know I need some help. Are you willing to assist me or point me on to someone who can? So long story short, she agreed to help me. And we started working together. First, it was every couple of weeks, and then it was once a month. And what she discovered for me is I had always heard of clairvoyance. I think we all know what clairvoyance is, but I didn't know about the other clairs. So she put words to what I was experiencing, which is claircognizance, clairaudience, clairsentience. And then I also have clairvoyance, but that doesn't activate until the other senses go first. So I have all 4 clairs, and in working with Holly, who is a shaman, she was able to kind of help me. She did a shamanic clearing for me, which I had never heard of before, where she kind of helped take out all of the ancestral karmic baggage and junk that I didn't need to carry any longer, and help me understand what cutting cords meant, letting go, setting things free, and forgiveness, and moving forward with gratitude. And I started going on internal shamanic journeys on my own, doing deeper levels of meditative prayer, and that's when it all started to click. And so I decided to study with her to understand what this meant for me. And she only said, this is what she tells people, and I'm paraphrasing for her, that she really helps people as a midwife in this lifetime to rebirth their spiritual self. She acts as a mirror to reflect us back to ourselves. And she said to me many times, she said, Angie, because that's what they called me in high school, you have done this multiple lifetimes. I'm just here to help you thread those pieces back together so that you can move forward in a new time with this knowledge. And that's where I am now. So today, I'm happy to report that I consider myself a modern shaman, where I clear energy from people, places, and things. And there are a lot of people right now carrying a lot of heaviness in their body. Whether it is insecurity, emotional baggage, pain, suffering, stress, anxiety, shame, a lot of shame. I can't tell you how many people are silently depressed. They live in fear. There's a lot of fear. We see it manifest, I think, when we turn on the news. That's why I don't watch the news anymore. Or the anger. There's a lot of that a bit spreading now. But people, how it affects us, if you're not an angry or fearful person, that still affects you. And how that imprints in the body is what I see. And I help people understand that which they are doing and how they can live in better accordance with their inner spirit and help them release that noise and put up loving, kind boundaries.
Yeah.
To block that out so that they start to take on their own sovereignty back. And it's a journey. It's a process.
Okay. So say I know more than one somebody who could use this help, but I know somebody pretty well who's in a dark place and would be extremely skeptical
Sure.
of this whole process, but might submit to it just because it's got no other choice. I mean, he's tried everything else and nothing has helped. So I guess what my question is even someone who comes to you who's extremely skeptical about your process and this whole word shaman.
Sure.
Have you worked with such people? And is there a way to still help them if they're a non-believer?
So that's a great question, because the world, I think all of us have some form of cynicism, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's
Yeah.
good. We need to have a balance of the love and the light, right? And
Yeah.
the darkness. We're made up of all of it. It's about pulling it into a balanced state so that we can live in full harmony with each other and with ourselves. You know, we talk about the Chinese and the Asians, the yin and the yang energy, right? It's that balance of the day and the night within, okay, or the masculine and the feminine within. I'm full-blooded Italian, and I will tell you that I occasionally Miss Italy comes out, and she's not very nice. She's nasty, so I keep her in her box, right? But every once in a while, she's got to let loose. She got to get out, okay?
Yeah.
So, but we bring everything back into balance. So what I suggest for folks who are skeptics is the best thing you can have is an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then see if you can seep it into an open heart.
Yeah.
Those who believe they have the power to heal themselves on any level, whether you're going through something emotionally, mentally, physically, or spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
You can take ownership. You can take control of whatever is holding you back. The first step is awareness and a willingness to try. What it is not is a quick pill. So we live in a fast food society. And people who, and I'm not picking on anyone, I'm just using this as an example. Let's say a person who is 50 to 100 pounds overweight wants to lose weight. Well, you have to, it's not a magic pill. You've got to put the work in. And you have to you have to be patient and take time to see the results come through. And it takes time physically, mentally, and emotionally, because you got to get your whole body in alignment, right? That's how those things pull together. It's no different when you're dealing with something if you're in a dark place. You've got to give yourself that runway to say, okay, I'm willing to give this a shot, but you have to be the one who wants to be open to it. I'm not here to force anyone to do anything that doesn't feel right, because I know I can't help them if they're not willing to be open to receiving it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are open-minded, if you are open-hearted or a little bit skeptical, that's fine. And quite frankly, there are some people I am probably not best suited to help. And I will be honest with a person. If I interact with someone who wants help, I'll find out if I'm the right person for them. If I'm not, I will refer them to someone else who I believe can help them. Because the integrity is also part of the work. It's not about me. It's about helping you live the best version of yourself. It's in there. Your light is in there. It might be dim right now. It might be dark all the time, but it's still in there. So it's about connecting to that inner brilliance, and I'll see it. But I will help you help yourself understand it. All I do is create the environment. I see into the field. I'll work with that individual one step at a time, or whomever. What is it you're willing to let go of now? What is the pain or suffering you want to release? What are the patterns you need to break? What are the habits you keep doing over and over again that you know you can't benefit from? But you've got to find that inner will. What's holding you back? Right? Like we talk about that, and then we go into a process together to clear it. Mm-hmm. And then I check in on them and see what they want to do. So it's possible to help anyone who's willing and able, or who wants to be helped. But if the person you're talking about doesn't want help, then I'm not for them.
Right.
So I will say this. I do have a lot of free content, similar to your wonderful podcast information, how it helps broaden the human psyche. If you want to follow me on social media, I have a lot of free videos just to help people create awareness around things like karmic entanglement. What is that? That might be a topic of interest to people, or different things that just little nuggets of knowledge that helps them feel safe and maybe say, oh yeah, I never thought of it that way. Yeah. So there's a variety of ways to reach people. Mm-hmm. And it's all about finding the right way for them, but they have to know from their heart what's right for them. Yeah. So, and if your friend's willing to jump in the deep end, let's do it.
Well, I'll check in with him and see. Okay, the Rose Heart.
Yes.
So tell us where that came from and what
Yes.
that's about.
So during my work with Holly and doing my own journeying and deep meditative practice, I met all kinds of ascended masters and saints, angels, archangels. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but one of the things, I'm also a channel to Archangel Gabriel. I have a direct line to him and through the other archangels that work with him through me. So that's been a beautiful gift and blessing. And the Blessed Mother came to me one day during a shamanic journey, which is, for people who don't understand what that is, most people understand what meditation is. A shamanic journey is like a lucid dream. It's just before you get into a deep meditative state, but you feel yourself going on a vision quest. And sometimes the vision quest can be set up for you by someone else, or you just go there automatically. And my first shamanic journey was...
I like that word, automagically.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, you can use it.
I wasn't going to let that slip by.
You can use it. Yes.
Okay.
We all have things, we all have inner magic. So get in touch with that automagic self. My first shamanic journey was with, I didn't know it at the time, but I have strong roots to past. Of course, most people listening to this channel are familiar with past life regression. And I have lived many lives as a Native American or indigenous in some form. So my first shamanic journey was tying me back to that practice. That's the most shamanic piece I feel connected to as a shaman. And on another occasion, I was having a waking moment like you and I are having right now. I was in my kitchen putting the dishes away out of the dishwasher in the morning. And I see Mother Mary she's out of the corner of my eye. And she's surrounded by roses. So I went back upstairs and went into meditation, and I asked to see Mary. And she appeared, again, surrounded by roses, and she's carrying a basket of red roses. And she handed me one. She calls me daughter, and she said, we are connected to the thread of the rose. And she said, anytime you connect with a woman in sincere friendship, give them a rose. And so one of the things I do when I do a practice with a woman for the first time is I hand them a rose at the end, because I want people to know that we are all connected through the rose thread. The rose is a symbolic symbol for women. It's not just a love symbol, but it is about divine femininehood all through the lines of time, and all the beautiful vibrant colors, and how we're all unique and different even within the same rose bush. Every rose may be the same color, but is unique and vibrates on its own frequency. So she taught me that. But what really struck me is we were on another vision quest together, and we took a walk. And you're familiar with the color sepia, like looking at old-fashioned photographs. So imagine in a scene where she's in color, and we're looking at a scene, we're walking through like a level field. There's dust and sand blowing around, and all these dead bodies are scattered on the ground. And it's probably in the medieval times. But yet, men and women are on the ground, and they have these open, wide, beautiful rose hearts. And she said to me, you are the rose heart. You are here to heal the hearts and minds of men and women who seek your help. You are to help them remember who they are and why they are here. And so it seemed only natural to me to take the name Rose Heart, since the Blessed Mother gave it to me. And I'm very honored to use that name in honor of her. And so I've personally connected to roses. I'm creating my own rose room in my home as a healing space for people and a sanctuary to make people feel safe and comforted and nurtured with unconditional love when they come in and do face-to-face work in the studio.
So I imagine, and I don't like to make assumptions because I do it all the time, and try to catch myself, because I'm picturing this very traditional Catholic family, but also who's got a well-known or an astrologer who's at least well-known in the community, the local community. So it feels like, on the one hand, there would be people in your family upset about the direction you've gone. And on the other hand, people said, well, sure, that's
Yes.
just natural that she went that way. So is that what you've been experiencing?
That's a great question. It's so funny because my one cousin said, well, of course she's a shaman. Her mother was into all of that. Yeah. My mother would be thrilled if she were still living right now. Yes. And here's something that is, it's a blessing, actually. So I'm going to try to explain this in a graceful way. I'm at the point in my life where I don't care what people think.
It's a great place, isn't it?
It's liberating.
Yeah.
It truly is. I'm fully in my own presence.
Uh-huh.
I feel comfortable in my own skin. And all I have is love for people. And that's the truth. I don't wish malice or ignorance on anyone. I want people to understand that if you do the work, you will feel this inner bliss that is indescribable. When you truly connect to who you are, you're not going to care about how many designer bags you own, how many pairs of shoes you have. Even the ladies, we love our shoes and our bags. Those things aren't going to matter in the same way that they do today because it's really about how you feel.
Yeah.
And so I only have love for my relatives and friends who think I'm a little nutty or kooky because honestly, part of the reason I love them is they have outlandish and fun personalities too. They're all different. And I always tease people. In fact, I did a video about this back in, I guess it was May. And I called it For the Crazy Ones. Because if you've ever made me, and this is true, if you've ever made me laugh, challenged my thinking, or pushed me outside of my comfort zone, on some level, you're crazy too, right? Because you don't think like me. So we're all just in this fun three-ring circus of earth, having fun and crazy together. And I think if we can just learn to love and accept one another for the fact that we're all different for a reason, trust me, life is so much easier when you can laugh about it and reflect upon it. And so that is what I wish for humanity, is just to love yourself fully jump into your life, embrace it with everything you've got, and don't worry about what other people think, because you deserve to be you. Because the inner you is fabulous and wants to be free and happy.
Yeah. I just love being in your presence and your energy. It's just so great.
Thank you.
Well, it's just very uplifting. I guess some of the things that you've said really resonate with me, and I've had my own connection with 4 archangels, and it's interesting, just to be able to tap into them.
Yes.
And usually it's whenever you want. Whenever you want to open that channel, they're there waiting for you.
Yep.
I don't have the Catholic background. I don't know how they slipped into my awareness.
We can talk about that.
Can't explain that one. Okay, so I guess what I'm thinking of is just, I met you at a psychic fair.
Yes.
And you had a booth there. So if somebody came up to you at a psychic fair and say, all right, fix me.
Okay.
and I guess we have 15 minutes to do this. And so what can you do for me?
Yes, actually it's 20, but yes,
okay.
no,
20
I'm
minutes.
teasing, I'm kidding. Yes, you can learn a lot about a person in 15 to 20 minutes. That would be fun, actually. That would be interesting to see if that happens. So I would invite them to sit down and I'd get a feel for their energy. And I read different oracle cards. I don't do tarot. There are a lot of people who do tarot. I do oracle cards because oracles get right to the point of the person. It can see right through the heart. It can show what is going on with you now and what you need to push through to get through it, and then what the potential outcome is.
Yeah.
And then we can also connect that to your heart. Okay, it can tell you what your heart is calling. As that's all unfolding, I see the energy of the person, and I understand it and learn more about them. So how my energy works. Remember I told you my clairvoyance works when all the other clairs activate. It's almost like a spiral. It's kind of fun to watch in my mind because things start to unfold. And then it's like a vision. And then I see the person, I see the field, I see their issue. And sometimes I can step into it. It depends on how deep we go. Usually during a shamanic clearing that happens. But I can usually pretty quickly identify in that time frame what it is they need help with. But here's the important piece to know. Everything I do is based on the person's intention. So I might see aggression, anger, bitterness. They're holding on to judgment, or maybe they've had a really bad relationship that ended in divorce 10 years ago, but they're still holding on to that anger, right? But they might come to me and say, fix me, I have arthritis, or I have this, or I have that. Okay, but eventually we have to get to the heart of that. What's the root cause of that? And that I have to pass back to them. So I have to work with them and gain their trust. I can help people clear the outer layer of things. There's always interference in the field, confusion, and what I call detrimental energy, attachments, and things that enter our field. Okay, so for example, if someone is looking at this podcast right now and looking at me and they're projecting something negative onto me, okay, I could pick that up. But what they don't know is I've done protection in advance, so it's going back to them, okay? But normal people don't. I shouldn't say normal people. Most people don't realize they have that inner ability to block those things or to send it back to sender with love, right? And peace. Yeah. So what I do is I have to clear the outer field first. It's like an onion, right? That thin layer, and then that next layer, and then eventually, slowly, we're going to get to that core because there's always a root cause. And what most people don't understand is that bitterness, that arthritis, that pain, that heart problem that they're holding on to, that they have, that's real and physical, is probably caused by something emotional or something mental or something traumatic that happened years ago that they can't quite let go of. Because once you start to unpack that, then you start to feel better. Now, full disclosure, I am not a medical doctor, and I am not a licensed therapist, and I will never, ever, ever tell anyone to stop taking medications or to stop seeing a therapist or anyone who makes you feel better, because I think the power of what I do is helping augment those services, because what I do connects all of the fields of the body, the energy body with the spirit, the mind, and it's so on. So I can. But I would want to know, are you willing to put in the work? Because in 15 minutes, I can't fix you. I can see you in 15 minutes. Yeah. I can get to know you. But are you willing to put in the work and the time to help yourself? Because I will create the environment to do that. And when I get in there and see what's going on, there's going to be a no BS meter in there too. Okay? But I do so with love and kindness and gentleness and without judgment.
Yeah. So the language you use, because I'm a Reiki practitioner,
yes,
I'm used to working with chakras and meridians and auras. You know, none of that seems to have worked its way into your language. It seems like it's a different language, the language of a shaman versus the language of a typical energy healer, say. So,
well, it is a yes and. Okay. How about that? So I do chakra work. I work with crystals. I do crystal shamanic healing as one of the modalities. So I either do oracle readings for people, and I can see the energy field. I can do angel readings. I can do channeling. If somebody asks for a reading with Archangel Gabriel, we can pull him in. We can do that too. But I advertise for three things. The oracle reading's one. The shamanic clearing is another. And then it's a combination shamanic energy clearing. So I do work with chakras, and that's where I pull in the crystals. Okay. But I do it a little bit differently. So, and forgive me because I did forget to mention this. When I work with Mary, this was one of the other aha moments I forgot to mention. In doing energy work with people, when I use the crystals And they're there to clear the chakras or clear a blockage out of the energy center, which you're very familiar with. Mm-hmm. Once the energy connects to the heart, whether it's through the crown or through the root, the heart explodes into a rose once their intention is being met. And it is magnificent to behold. Yeah. So it's beautiful. So I actually do see rose hearts in people. And I can't believe I forgot to mention that. We got so carried away. But I do use the terms energy centers. Sometimes instead of chakras, because it just depends on what you're.
Yeah,
it's the same
it's the
thing,
same thing, right? Yeah,
yes,
sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Well, some of the reading that I've done and the groups that I work with, we use the rose for protection, so that you envision the rose out here and out here and here and here and above and below.
Yes.
And use that as a protection symbol. And, when you talked about protection, I don't know if you were invoking the rose in that process, or your process is different.
My process is a little bit different than that. I actually invoke the divine twin flame of God, Source Creator, and Mother Earth, the power of Mother Earth into the heart. And I create a torus of energy all throughout my field. Okay. It's about 3 feet out in all directions. And it's a fire ring. Okay. And there's some other pieces in there too.
That's right. I'm familiar with the toric field.
Yes.
And
Yes. But the rose oil, of course, rose is the highest of highest frequencies. It's a very beautiful frequency to work with. And so it's an honor to the rose that you invoke the rose for protection, because the rose, there's of course the thorns are there to protect the rose. Yeah. And so that it can bloom free and unabashed with brilliance, right? And so I think that's pretty neat. I think that's cool.
Okay. All right. I'm just keeping an eye on the time, because we could just go on and on, I think.
Well, there is something I would like to offer you that you mentioned that I'd like to come back to. And you were teasingly saying that you're connected. You're not Catholic, but somehow the 4 angels connected to you, or archangels. Angels are for everyone.
Yeah.
They're everywhere for everyone. They are so busy and just in service of humanity. And they're unconditionally loving, giving. You probably already have sensed this yourself. They all have a different personality, a different frequency, a different gift, wisdom, energy, and vibrancy. And so anyone out there who takes comfort in that, I want them to know that angels aren't just for Catholics. Oh, heavens, no. Yeah. They're for everyone. And what I love about Gabriel's connection, I'm honored to be connected to Gabriel, is Gabriel appears in, I believe, 3 different religious traditions: the Muslim tradition, and the Judeo and Christian tradition, as the messenger of God. And so I take that as a blessing and a gift. I take that opportunity to be a messenger of the voice in modern language, right? To speak my truth with his guidance, to be with me with humility, but love, with just openness and of heart and love. So I just want to make sure people know that the angels are for everyone. So anytime you sense you need help, just call on your guardian angel. Or if there's an archangel or someone, even if you have a figurine in your house, or the angel on top of a tree, if you see someone, even if you're not Christian and you see an angel on the top of a tree, connect to just angel energy, and they will be there to help you.
Yeah. Yeah, my 4 are Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, and Michael. And anyway.
They're on my team too, and I want to surprise you. Guess who else is here for you today? Metatron's above your head today. Yes.
Sorry, Metatron, I didn't mention you.
No. It's all good. They work together a lot. In fact, we all work together as a team a lot. Yeah. So he's here too. and they just love you to death. I mean, they love you dearly for the work you're doing, and you're just such a good human soul, and the work you're doing is important.
Well, part of why I do this is they push me. So
good, and you're supported for sure.
Yeah. Okay, we've come to the end of our time, and I think I warned you about this. You've given us some words of wisdom already, but is there some words that you would like to leave the audience with for them to ponder?
Yes. So forgive me for being verbose, because I'm good at that. This is the messenger thing. One of the things that is so liberating about where I am now is I wake up every day with a sense of wonder. I cannot wait to get out of bed every day. In fact, sometimes it's too early, because I have connected with my inner child, and every day is fun, and I never know what wonders and delights are around the next corner. And so if I can leave you with one thing, be open to receiving the delights and wonder of every day. Yes, you're going to have stress and things that bring you down, but always be open to receiving those little blessings and joy and sprinkles of delight, because they're all around you. And that's where the joy and the source of goodness and love come from. So I hope that's helpful.
That's great. Yeah, I find it helpful at night, just before falling off to sleep, to review the day and all the blessings of the day.
Absolutely.
Because no matter how bad the day is, there have been blessings scattered throughout.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And there's always tomorrow.
Right. Let's hope.
Let's hope.
Yeah. Okay, audience, you've got your homework. Take what's resonated with you and just put the rest on the shelf, because you may want to pull it down later. And until next time, this has been your spiritual journey.